For all mankind. This was season 3, episode 7, and Dan, you watched it, so why don't you just sort of take it away and let us know what you think, how things are shaping up, what's new in this series this week.
Yeah, I love to say this is one thing that I love about the show. Honestly, this is a very measured show. Like after last episode, I think we had that conversation, and I was talking about how there's a simmering pot here that's about to, explode, and there's all kinds of things that are, all kinds of storylines that are on the precipice of some kind of major confrontation or reveal or some kind of, major plot point is about to go down. However, going to this episode, obviously I was excited about all those things potentially happening. The show it didn't give me that. But what it did give me was very exciting nonetheless, because again, it's like this show reminds you every time you start to think they're gonna get away from the how they ground the show, then how they make it look and feel so real. The surrealism of the show like reminds you, okay, yes, and a different kind of show, yes, maybe there will be a fight between Danny Stevens and Ed Baldwin, and they would fisticuffs it out, but and For All Mankind, there is a little more, they're grounded by saying, okay, maybe eventually they will get there, but it's not going to happen overnight. Like, there's a natural progression of events. And I think while I went into this episode thinking, boom, 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 there's going to be all kinds of, like, things we're going to be hit with, the episode was very measured, and now I'm starting to realize they're probably building towards a lot of those payoffs, but That's probably still a few episodes away, and probably the season finale, and it's not going to be like they're going to just take all of that out, and then because I guess like what else would there be?
How many episodes do they usually have in a season?
I think it's like 10 or 13. I think
okay,
this
so there's
season's
still ways
also
to
10.
go here.
Yeah, this season. Let's see. Let me just very quickly take a look. So this was episode 7, and there's 10 episodes this season. So there's still got a few more to go. So this feels like we're coming toward the end of Act 2 if this was one long movie, and now we're heading towards Act 3. Yeah.
So what is this whole situation with Danny Stevens?
I'm glad that you asked, because honestly, here's the thing. Danny Stevens, as you may or may not know, is the son of Gordo Stevens, who was this legendary NASA astronaut. He gave his life, sacrificed himself, and his wife, Danny Stevens' mother, also on the moon, trying to save a bunch of astronauts when there was a nuclear meltdown happening on their Jamestown base. So there's a lot riding. I mean, this guy has a lot of weight and a big shadow to that he walks with all the time.
Sure.
He is he's become a bit of a drug addict. Like he's taking all kinds of pills, whatever he can get his hands on, all kinds of opioids, and he's gone to a point now where he's literally in this episode become unhinged. And last episode hinted at like a confrontation between him and Ed Baldwin, which the wrinkle here is at one point 10 years ago in the show's timeline, Danny Stevens slept with Ed Baldwin's wife, who you can imagine there's quite a bit of an age gap, but like she's pretty good looking, and like even I guess 10 years ago she would have been old, relatively speaking. But anyway, there was a bit of an affair, and Ed never found out who she slept with, but she told him, and they've separated since. But Danny still resents that basically she said, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. This is a mistake. And now she's sort of inching back towards Ed, and they're hinting in this season that Ed and Karen Baldwin might get back together as a couple after being separated for like a decade. And Danny has become like the stalker dude. And in this episode, he finally like cracks. He like stomps on this robot dog, and after that he's confronted by Ed, and Ed just straight up tells him for the real, because he's obviously noticing a lot of the behavior because of he's got like those the eyes, and he can't focus, he's not shaving anymore, like he looks like somebody who's on pills, and he literally screams at him like, hit me, like, and Danny can't get himself to do anything about that, but it all leads into him causing a lot more damage down the road. Huh?
Where is this all? This is all happening in space?
This is on Mars. Danny
Mars.
Stevens and Ed Baldwin are both part of the Helios crew on Mars.
Right. So while this is going on Mars, what's happening on Earth?
I'm glad you asked, because on Earth, a lot of the stories focus on President Ellen Wilson, who beat out a certain guy by the name of Bill Clinton to become the president in 1992. And her husband, who, by the way, the two characters we know, or the audience knows, they're both gay, and they've just hidden it from the world. And they're a couple married for 20 years. They even have a daughter now. And now it's finally getting to a point where they're Republican basically, and the Democrats are have gotten wind of Ellen's husband like potentially having an affair with another with a White House aide. You know, they're weaving in like elements of reality in a manner of speaking, and so now they're coming after them, and so they're spending like the president and the first man or first gentleman. What would you call him?
First gentleman, I think.
First
is what
gentleman.
they were going for.
They're spending this entire episode trying to battle this situation, because obviously this could become a big scandal, and and they're just past the midterms, I believe. This is 1995, just about. So coming up on election season for re-election, and then by the end of the episode, what we get this big reveal that Ellen, who had a love interest, her name was Pam in the last couple of seasons, she left her because she realized that it was either going to be her or Ellen's career, and she does not know that until her husband in this episode, who I'm forgetting the name of, but it comes out in like a conversation that they're having, and she realizes that the sacrifice that Pam made for her, and so by the end of the episode, she's at her door. She forgoes a charity event and flies out from Andrews Base to visit Pam. So again, when I thought this episode we were gonna get some kind of big press story and all of a sudden this thing was gonna blow up, they took the more realistic approach, and they again brought in what happened in real life with Bill Clinton back in the 90s, and obviously then you tie that into the character story that we have with Ellen and what she wants from her personal life, as well as obviously their public image. So again, I love the show, and I love the writing behind the show and how they're treating all these characters.
So there's probably a lot building at this point. I mean, what seeds have they planted for next week? What are you excited for?
Yeah, so a big part of the episode is they're drilling down for water. The Helios crew and the Soviets are cooperating, and they're drilling down into this huge underground aquifer. And they've unfortunately left our NASA folks behind, because the NASA folks are not involved with this. So they're just hanging out, doing a whole lot of nothing, and eating their food. That's basically the only scene you get to really see all the NASA crew in this episode. They kind of get put to the side. But his daughter, Kelly, who's in this picture, by the way, she's the one to the left in the front. Kelly is Ed's daughter, and she's on the NASA crew, and Ed is the commander of the Helios crew. She's a biologist who's trying to find microbial life in this underwater samples that they took before they start to drill. However, because of Danny being absolutely just hurling 6 pills at a time into his mouth, he can't focus on being at the comms, and they ask him to turn the pressure up so they can keep the drill going down, but he cannot focus, so he turns the comms off, and then the drill basically snaps, and there's a bunch of shrapnel that goes out. It hits Ed. Ed is now injured, and a couple other astronauts are injured, so they're running to their habitats to try to recover and obviously get surgery or done, whatever. But then we see the ground around this aquifer drill site just crack, and now there's this Marsquake happening, and there's a big landslide off a cliff and so now this whole drilling operation has gone so far sideways that I'm pretty sure by the end of the episode the
stakes are raising quite a
might
bit.
have been killed. And again, it ties into Danny and how, I mean, you can even blame Ed, because Ed brought him on, so he should have, ultimately it's his fault that Danny's even there to cause these issues.
Okay, so there's a lot that could unravel. There's a lot of tension building, some real drama occurring already. It sounds like a pretty well-developed, fun show.
I love the show. I mean, just when you think the show couldn't get any better, and I think every week they just continue to improve, and I just love that about this.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, we'll follow up with this next week. We still have a few episodes to go. Sounds great. Let us know if you're watching this back at home. Tell us what you think. Like and subscribe. You know the drill. Be our friend. We're on all the media.